as far as what do I hope happens, well, I hope for Nick, like I said this, I keep saying it. I hope he gets better. I really do. I've said that the entire time. Whatever the hell it is, I hope he gets it figured out. Now, what's going to happen from here? For a lot of people, getting caught is a godsend because it gives them a chance, like, oh my God, I really am fucking up. I need to focus. Like, oh, I don't have a problem. The criminal justice system, the state of Minnesota says, actually, you do. And maybe this gives them a chance because a lot of people won't get better till they crash and burn. Or now they've got the full force of the government hanging over their head. So we'll see. Now, there might be intervention programs, there might be diversion programs. A lot of things may be accessible to them because they are first-time offenders. I don't know about any of that. I don't know specifically how that's done. I don't know, is their prosecutor's office, are they cool about that? Are the judges in that county cool about that? It really all depends. But there's a million different ways this can go, guys. Darcy is saying it's Minnesota drug court with diversion. Very true. That's more than likely the outcome. The idea of him going away forever, that doesn't happen on your first time through. Not on something like this. If it was something with a mandatory offense or something really heinous, sure, but that ain't gonna happen here. Even if he pled guilty right off the rip, that ain't happening. But I agree with you. Drug court or something, diversion, even if there wasn't diversion and there wasn't drug court, some sort of intense supervision and probation would be the game. You're not going to prison for this stuff. Now, if you fuck up probation or you fuck up diversion, whole nother story. Good evening, guys. How are you doing? Funny seeing you here. Never thought I would, but how are you guys doing tonight? It is Friday night. And yes, there are developments in the RQ, the Rekieta question. Yes, Nick did enter a plea today, and we're going to go over that. So we'll give people a minute to get in here. But I did want to say hello to everyone who's watching. We're live tonight on Rumble, and that's why we were late for a minute trying to get Rumble set up, chat, so I apologize. We're on Rumble, Twitter, and here on YouTube. If you guys are new, my name's Sean, also a potentially criminal. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland area, and tonight we're going to be going over, well, that's a little too much light there. We're going to be going over what happened today and what does this actually mean, and yeah, just kind of starting off from there. So we're going to go... your office doesn't look very warm and welcoming tonight. It is really bright. It's really bright? Well, that's why I thought I'd gotta turn the light here. That makes it a little better. Makes it a little better. But, so guys, yeah, as I said, I'm an attorney in the Cleveland area, and tonight we're going to be covering, defense attorney. So it's really in our wheelhouse tonight. Let's see, who's all here so far? Sean, you played Sean for McCann. Shame. just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. Yes, I look so young in that clip. Yes, literally about 8 months to the day. Yes, about 8 months to the day. But yes, that's what a difference 8 months makes. What a difference 8 months makes. And so we got something here. Automata's been a member for 9 months. Thank you so much for your support. He says, so Nick R is to be sentenced in April. Yeah, ironic. Yeah, it's funny how that all works out. It's funny how that all works out in this situation. Garfield's Bizarre Adventures is saying, glad to know Nick admitted to being in possession of the same substance that his 9-year-old daughter tested positive for. Well, not saying, just saying. Just saying. All right, chat. So we got a lot of people in here. I think it's about time we hit the road. Also, hello, everybody over on Rumble. In Exile says first-ish. Well, you were first there, so it's good enough. So here we go. So yes, guys, Nick had his case. If you guys don't remember the story here, back in May, I think it was actually the 23rd. And as I stated when I started that show, I'm going to court, hanging out with 2.0 for a minute, and then I go out and mow the yard, and literally the fucking training wheels fall off the world. And people start calling me and texting me, and, my DMs blow up on Twitter and in Discord and everywhere. Everybody's just telling me all kinds of stuff happens. And then like I said, I'm just mowing the yard, listening to the Duran talking about how Ukraine's a dumpster fire and all that. And it's like, all right, cool. And then what do we do? What do we do? We get there and it I'm like, oh wow, something happened, and I'm like, jeez. Ow. I'm like, jeez, this is intense. And we get there and I open everything up and I'm like, oh my God. And that started off the whole issue of Nick and his wife, and eventually what became April. And if you guys were not aware, Nick and Kayla's initially were charged with felony drug possession. They were also charged with other offenses regarding having firearms in the home and also their children being in the home while those drugs were present. This all became part of a search warrant that was executed, and probably one of the major impetuses for that search warrant, or at least one of the bigger pieces of evidence that led to that search warrant being issued and sought after, was part of Nick's coke stream, the infamous coke stream, where he showed up with after he went and dusted himself up and hit the slopes. And now, according to him, tries to do a DSP impression, or as he says, my leg was hurting, I'm trying to keep it up. Whichever one you want to believe, whichever theory you want to believe, that all happened. Then shortly afterwards, the police execute a search warrant on the home. They found 26 grams and change of cocaine and cocaine accessories. They found it all in the bedroom area of the Rekieta compound. And chat, it's not the house that Nick just sold. It's the big house. Big house. The house that was getting foreclosed on. The difference in the two houses there. So that was, I know none of it was watermarked, chat, but the courts, the corruption of the courts continues. So that all happened. Nick was arraigned. He ended up going out on bond. So did Kayla, going out on bond. April got released without charges, and then later on they did end up charging April with low-level felony drug possession. They found her credit cards, active credit cards covered in coke and sitting there with a tray of it. And I believe, based on how things were said in the report and what we understand in the filings, they were found in the area near all the cocaine, and kind of went from there. The other issues ended up their children being taken from the home through Children's Services, partially because of the drug use in the home, but also it sounds like the home was a Haitian refugee camp, basically. Just a complete hovel. Took a lot of people a lot of time to get it cleaned up and caught up. So we went through that process, went through those hearings, went through all of it. Nick ended up trying to file a Frank's motion, which once again, I just, nothing else you could say about it. Nothing to say about it. And I think Nick's statements when he was on with Camelot, he's like, yeah, kind of hinting at, like, I think he realized his lawyer sucked, but kind of too late for this at this point now. But that happened. He tried a Frank's motion, tried to get the warrant thrown out, claimed it was done under wrong and false pretenses. That got shot down and went down in flames. Nick, at that point, because they didn't really protect their rights, and his attorney kind of fucked it up, kind of lost everything else, didn't really have a chance to suppress anything else. So that left Nick with really out much hope. He then tried to appeal it. That appeal got shot down, so they weren't even allowed the chance to appeal. And now Nick is left where he's at, where he had the settlement conference, and then they were going to come back. And yeah, now Nick has entered a plea. So we are going to go through that. So we are going to start with this. And if you guys have never seen this, this is the plea form. I'm sure you've already seen it if you watch other people or you've been on the farms and been on Twitter. It's there. Now, real quick, Logistical Nightmare says for $10, to commemorate the guilty plea, will we be seeing an anime sex cope and sneeze dragon and pizza review on Locals? No, I am not intending that. I am not intending that at all. And then Tim of Tams gifting 10 subs. Let's go, chat. Let's do this. We are praying the gray away tonight. Grays, you've got nowhere to run. Nowhere to run tonight, Grays. So just accept it. Just lay back and let it happen. Just lay back and let it happen. So here we go, guys. This is the form. And this form here is... Oh, wow. That was kind of awkward how that was set on there. All right. So this is a plea form, chat. This is a standardized form. Now, I don't know in Minnesota, is this something that's derived from the state level, or if this is derived just at the local court level? It could be either or. And from here, this is a petition to enter a felony plea of guilty in a felony case pursuant to Rule 15. And that's Rule 15 of their Rules of Criminal Procedure. That's why you see that there. And then where is... There we go. That's what I was looking for. So here we go, chat. So this is the state of... It starts off all the basic stuff at the beginning. They are in the 8th Judicial District. This is the case number. If you guys want to look it up on the Minnesota Court Records, MCRO, this is the case number if you're looking for it. If you type it in like this with all the dashes, you will find the case. It was filed today, the 24th. State of Minnesota in Kandiyohi County. And it's the state of Minnesota versus Nicholas Robert Rekieta. And that's our boy. And it says, to the above named court, and it says, I, Nick Rekieta, the defendant in the above entitled action, do respectfully represent and state as follows. And I will just say respectfully. Remember that that's a relative term, so we'll just leave that alone. He says, my full name is Nicholas Robert Rekieta. I am 43 years old. My date of birth is December 16th, 1981. The last grade I went through in school is law school graduate. Now, normally you just write graduate school, but for some people it's a high school. Some people it's a GED equivalency. For some people, it's less, an 8th grade education. I've had clients where we had to do that. I passed the 8th grade and that's it. How, the court will normally ask, how far did you go? Because part of this is, do you understand the English language as written and spoken? And if you can't understand it, well, that's going to be hard to do a plea. But more importantly, if you aren't the most literate person and you don't really understand things, that gives the court notice, hey, I'm going to have to sit here and really make sure he understands everything, because this ultimately is part of the record when it gets to something like a court of appeals, and they're going to try to figure out, what are we going to do here if Nick says, oh, this plea was garbage, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know what was going on. In this case, the court says, look, we verified. He clearly understands the English language as written and spoken. Not only did he graduate high school, he graduated college. And not only did he attend graduate school, he went to law school, graduated from that, and law school is a terminal degree. So that's why they started like that. And they just want to make sure it establishes some basic things. And he says, if followed on my case, I have received a copy of, in this case, not the indictment, but the complaint. He says, I understand the charges made against me in this case are possession of drugs in the 2nd degree, possession of firearms or ammunition because of the possession of drugs, and then the child endangerment because of the possession of drugs. Now, guys, remember, the top one is the felony. These bottom 2 are misdemeanors. And these were committed on or about the 23rd of May, 2024 in Kandiyohi County. And yes, that was a Thursday. And yes, that was when we had the Thursday show. So that's why it was all interesting in one way or another. And he says, I am represented by an attorney whose name is Francis Herbert White III. Once again, I will say, I don't think this guy did a very good job for Nick. I think it was actually pretty poor. Even if this was where Nick was telling him what to do or giving him things to do or really putting an input, you got to control your client. You have to tell them, listen, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. I know what I'm doing. Let me help you. Let me take care of things. So I think they failed in their client management and client control. But yeah, I was very disappointed in this. This was not an impressive showing. And I just think overall it was very poor. And from here, though, Nick is attesting and certifying that I feel I've had sufficient time to discuss my case with my attorney. I'm satisfied my attorney is fully informed as to the facts of this case. My attorney has discussed possible defenses to the crime I may have, and that I am satisfied that my attorney has represented my interests and fully advised me. And, he has advised Nick, but it then becomes the issue of, like, are you truly satisfied with their service? But Nick is saying yes. And he says, I've never been a patient in a mental hospital. And this guy's here is just, oops, check the wrong box. That happens. I have not talked with or been treated by a psychiatrist or other person for a nervous or mental condition. Now, these 2 are important because here, if you have a mental defect or disease, or if you're having some sort of mental issues, the court will want to know, because this is a document you're signing, and you need to be able to show you're clear-headed, you understand what's going on, you can comprehend it. If you're not competent, that becomes an issue. So why do they ask all of this? Because this prevents, once again, somebody like Nick from coming back later and saying, oh, I was in a mental hospital when I was 12, and oh, I was crazy, and you didn't know, and you didn't ask, and therefore this plea gets thrown out, and we should go back to the hearing because I didn't like how it went. That's what this is for. As I mentioned with Kurt, these things are all in here because something happened when somebody appealed, and the court's like, okay, yeah, I guess we have to fix this. So that's why these things are in here, to show that he's doing this of sound mind. He clearly understands the consequences of decisions, the weight of what he's doing, and how this works. And he says, from there, he says, I have not been ill recently. Now, this, when it says ill, that probably means of it, just normal, like you don't have the flu, you don't have a headache. Yeah, I came in here and I woke up and I was feeling like I was going to die. So yeah, I agree to stuff I didn't know I was signing. Once again, it's another one of those issues. He says, I have recently been taking pills or other medicines. Now, they ask you this because they need to make sure, do those medicines and medications affect your ability to enter into this plea? Can you, do they cloud your judgment? Do they impair your judgment? Are there cognitive issues? And the way I try to explain it to people when I have clients with this, is it stuff that you wouldn't be able to operate a car or heavy machinery? Any medicine like that, clearly, you can't do that. Well, clearly, entering a plea would be bad because you're in the influence of something. But there are also psychotropic drugs. There's also psychiatric medicines that affect how you think and how you're processing things. So the court wants to know, and once again, this is about establishing the record that he did this of sound mind. It was knowing, voluntarily, and intelligently pled to. Because as long as you can show that, the court's not going to be inclined to overturn or will let him withdraw a plea when it gets to the appellate courts, because they're going to say, look, you already did it. We're not going to send it back. So that's why we see all this. And he says for number 10, I do not make the claim I was so drunk or so under the influence of drugs or medicine I didn't know what I was doing at the time of the crime. Well, let's be real. I think, he... I mean, are we going to say that he wasn't? I don't know. They didn't charge him with an OVI offense, so maybe that second they didn't think so. He's saying, and not at the time of the crime, I was acting in self-defense or merely protecting myself or others at the time of the crime. Once again, guys, these two here are, so you can't claim, well, I had an affirmative defense and I'm protesting. All right. There were facts not in the way. This is establishing something for the record. He says, I do not make the claim that the fact that I've been held in jail since my arrest and could not post bail caused me to decide to plead guilty in order to get the thing over with rather than waiting my turn at trial. And that happens, guys. People sitting in jail, you don't get to see your family. It weighs on people. Kids saying, Daddy, when are you coming home? Or when the wife calls you crying, it's like, when is he getting out? And I'm like, he can't. We tried, and we can't get a lower bond, or he's being held without bond. Those things happen. And people will enter pleas for that. The government does use that as a tool of coercion and enforcement, is getting people to plea in those situations. It does happen. It happens. And he says, I do not make the claim that the fact that, we already grasped that one. Sorry. He said, for number 13, I was represented by an attorney, and he did not have a probable cause hearing. He didn't have a probable cause hearing. I think he waived it initially at the beginning. And then he just did a contested omnibus, if I remember correctly from the arraignment. So all this here, he is kind of waiving this, but he says, I know that I can now move the complaint against me to be dismissed for lack of probable cause. And I know that if I don't make such a motion and go ahead with entering my plea of guilty, I waive all right to successfully object to the absence of a probable cause hearing. And he says, I also waive that right, all right to successfully object to any errors in the probable cause hearing when I enter my guilty plea. So Nick is giving up these rights, and he tried to challenge a probable cause, but once again, remember that bumbling, ham-fisted Frank's motion kind of ruined all of that. From there, he's then attesting, my attorney has told me, and I understand the prosecutor of this case against me has evidence obtained as a result of searching and seizing the evidence. Evidence in the form of statements, oral and written, that I made to police or others regarding this crime. Evidence discovered as a result of my statements or as a result of the evidence seized in a search. Identification evidence from a lineup or photographic identification. And those are big things because remember, they're going to say, how do you know it's Nick? How do you know that's his house? Remember, guys, they're showing like they can prove all these things and he's acknowledging me. The prosecutor has able to prove these elements of the crimes. The evidence of prosecution, believes indicates I committed one or more other offenses. And he says, I have the right to a pretrial hearing before a judge determine whether or not the evidence the prosecution has could be used against me if I went to trial in this case. Yeah, it's a suppression hearing. And yeah, we know how that went. He says that if I requested such a pretrial hearing, I could testify at the hearing if I wanted to, but my testimony could not be used as substantive evidence against me if I went to trial in this case. And the court just make it clear that Nick understands his rights and how those rights would work and how they would play out. He has the right to contest the evidence that would be presented at trial. And he has the right to challenge their admissibility. And he would have the right to testify at that hearing. And he says that I do not now request such a pretrial hearing, and I specifically do waive my right to have such a pretrial hearing. He's like, I'm not going to bother having it. And he says, whether or not I have had such a hearing, I will not be able to object tomorrow or at any other time to the evidence the prosecutor has. And this is just a way for the court, for Nick to understand, they have all this evidence against you. And you're acknowledging that they do. You don't get to come back later and say, Your Honor, well, Your Honor, there's still the idea that maybe Aaron did it and Aaron went through and, all of these mealy-mouthed, wrinkly-dicked arguments and hypotheticals Nick has been putting out there. Well, maybe somebody else put it there. Or you don't know what the police put in your house. And when confronted on, he's like, I didn't say that. Actually, I didn't say that. It's taking advantage of, it's taking all those things away because we know he's already made these comments. So at this point, Nick is agreeing. Yeah, I'm saying all that's not true. Nope. I'm waiving it all. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the case for him going forward. We'll see. But that is currently what Nick is doing right now. And he says, I have been told. So this one here is going to be very interesting, especially if Nick ends up having streams in the meantime. He better watch what the fuck he says because guess who's watching? The prosecution and the prosecutor and the state and the police. They're going to watch it. They're going to go, oh, look who's running his mouth. So, Nick, if you're out there watching this, buddy, I don't know if Frank told you anything because like I said, I have some concerns about what he's done and hasn't done in your case. You really are going to have to watch your mouth about all the shit you might allege happened. Like, all this shit about Aaron planting it or, all these other things, like that's gone, man. That's gone now. That's gone. So, from there, he also says, I've been told by my attorney and I understand that if I wish to plead not guilty, I'm entitled to a trial by a jury on the issue of guilt. And all jurors would have to agree I was guilty before the jury could find me guilty. And that's true. He would have to be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. No, come here, buddy. Hey, chat. Look who's joining us tonight. Talking about this. And you're like, wait, hold on. What's that, Clyde? No, you're not. I'm not going to make you put on the ball, though, buddy. I love you too much for that. Buddy. All right. Now, what happens from here? So they have to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and that verdict would have to be unanimous. He also says that if I plead guilty, I will not have a trial by either a jury or by a judge without a jury. And that's true. He won't get a bench trial. You don't have a jury trial. By pleading guilty, you're kind of giving up that right. And he says that with knowledge of my right to a trial on the issue of guilt, I now waive my right to a trial. And he did. He was waiving it. He says, I've been told my attorney, and I understand that if I wish to plead not guilty and have a trial by jury or a trial by a judge, I would be presumed innocent until my guilt is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And then he further acknowledges, and this gets to your Fifth Amendment right, here, at least part A, it says, I've been told by my attorney and understand that if I wish to plead not guilty and have a trial, the prosecutor would be required to have witnesses testify against me in open court in my presence, and then I would have the right to my attorney to question these witnesses. Now, this is, I'm sorry, why did I say Fifth Amendment? I was a little sorry, Sixth Amendment, because he has the right to confront. And he says, that with knowledge of my right to have the prosecution's witness testify in open court in my presence and be questioned by my attorney, I now waive that right. And he says, I've been told by my attorney and I understand that if I wish to plead not guilty and have a trial, I would be entitled to require any witnesses that I think are favorable to me appear. What's up, buddy? What? He's like, I hear Sonny in the distance. And testify at trial on my behalf. And that's compulsory process, chat. That's the subpoena power. You have the right to do that. I'm talking about the subpoena power, not Nick gazing at Aaron's penis. Different things, chat. I understand why some people might be confused about that. But those are two different powers. The power to subpoenas and the power to see penises, specifically Aaron's. He says, with that knowledge of my right to require favorable witnesses to appear and testify at trial, I now waive that right. Uh-oh, I think he wants down. I'm going to put him down. It's okay, Bubby. You're okay. You're okay. Hey. I'm going to put you down, okay? I promise. You're not getting locked in the bathroom, Clyde. I'll put you down. You can go see 2.0. There you go. There you go. All right. Hi, buddy. You know what? Fine. I'll give you some. You want a weed treat? I know he does. There you go, buddy. There you go. All right. So he says, I have been told by my attorney, and I understand that a person who has prior convictions or a prior conviction can be given a longer prison term because of this plea. And that's possible, depending on situations. That could be an issue. He understands the maximum penalty the court can impose for this crime, taking into consideration other prior convictions, is an imprisonment for 25 years. And that a minimum sentence is required by statute. The court may impose a sentence of imprisonment of not less than not applicable for this crime, meaning he is entitled to a sentence of no time. He can be placed on probation right away. And when we talked about up for chat, the Minnesota sentencing guidelines, he is eligible for parole for this offense, even for the second degree one. And he says that if that for felony driving while impaired or most sex offenses, and he doesn't have to worry about it, it's not here. A mandatory period of conditional release will follow any executed prison sentence that is imposed. Once again, that doesn't matter for Nick. Violating the terms of this conditional release may increase the time I serve in prison. Now, that is something they have to notify you of. You have to know that. If you're sent to prison and then you're released, so conditional release, they might call it parole in other states. In Ohio, it's called post-release control. It sounds like in Minnesota, they call it conditional release. So if you violate the terms of conditional release, you can be sent back to prison. Or if you get new charges while you're on conditional release, they can tack those on and send you back on top of that. He says, in this case, the period of conditional release is not applicable. And he says, further, that a person who participates in a crime by intentionally aiding, advising, counseling, and conspiring with another person or persons to commit a crime is just as guilty of that crime as the person or persons who are present and participating in the crime when it is actually committed. And this happens a lot. This gets around the idea people are going to say, well, I wasn't there, or I just helped, but I didn't help them do it. Or because people, and we've heard Nick do this, you get wishy-washy and you try to weasel your way out of shit. Like, I didn't actually do that. I was just standing around and the other guy was shooting at people. It's like, well, no, you drove the guy to the scene and you know he was going to put in some work. So this is why you're seeing this all in here. This is cutting off things that he may try to raise later and just getting rid of a lot of that. Now, the one thing I will say that I was a little surprised about here when they talk about his trial rights is you don't see this, and this is something I think it should be in here, that he has the right to remain at trial. He has the right to remain silent, and nobody can comment on his silence, and it cannot be used in for guilt. There's also he has the right to testify. I'm surprised there's some things in here that I don't see normally, and I've seen in other other guilty plea forms we've covered before. So this one's a little different. It's a little different. So just wanted to comment on that. Just wanted to comment on that. And he says, I have been told by my attorney and understand. Oh, I'm sorry. He says that my present probation or parole could be revoked because of the guilty plea to this crime. And that's true. If you are subject to any sort of supervision, probation, parole, supervised release, whatever it is, you could face a revocation. Now, it's never guaranteed because this court's generally the court handling your plea is not in charge of that. They're just making sure you understand that could happen. Because if you're not aware of that happening, once again, you're not making a knowing, involuntarily, and intelligent plea. Remember, that is the big thing. You have to show that it was knowing, voluntary, and intelligent. If you can't show those three things, then it's not a valid plea. It's not a valid plea. And then he says the prosecutor is seeking an aggravated sentence of, and they're not. So we're not worried about that. Now, the actual terms here of the agreement. I've been told by my attorney and understand that my attorney discussed this case with one of the prosecuting attorneys, and that my attorney and the prosecuting attorney agreed that if I entered the plea of guilty, the prosecutor will do the following. And this is giving the substance of the agreement. So this is where they start putting it all together, and they start coming up with what's going to happen here. Why is this? Why is this fighting me? It's like so. There we go. There we go. Now, from here it says he will plead guilty to the amended charge of possession in the third degree. Okay, fair enough. A statutory stay of adjudication pursuant to Minnesota statutes, section 152.18, and we'll go over that in a second. The remaining terms of the sentence at the court's discretion, meaning whatever else the terms of the sentence, including probation, would be at the court's discretion. The state drops all other charges. That's not unheard of. And then the state's dismissing the case against Kayla and the case against April, which I am actually surprised. Like the one against April, I get it. That's a little tougher. But the one against Kayla, I'm actually a little surprised about because I'm not going to lie, where I've been prosecuted before, we wouldn't just drop it like that. It was in the house. She knew it was in the house, and like she was doing the drugs too. Does that mean that Nick went ahead and made a proffer and ran a gossip column to the police about like everything he knew, where all the drugs went, how he was getting them, and all the information he could provide, and was willing to cooperate? Maybe he traded all that in exchange for their freedom. But just the idea of him just saying, like I know Nick might tell the story as like, I walked in there and I told that woman, you're gonna drop the charges against my hoe. And the prosecutor went, Mr. Rekieta, of course I'll do it. Don't yell at me. I'm so scared. I'm sure that's how he's going to portray it. That's not how it went. I'm sure he said, what do I got to do to help them out? Do you need me to offer? Do you need me to snitch? Let me do whatever it is I got to do. And he sat down with the cops. He told them everything he knew, probably showed them everything on the phones. Where did I go? Where did I buy? How much? And do all that. And I'm sure they use that to do investigations furthering those. So that is, I mean, I'm just saying that's likely how that happened. The idea they're just like, oh yeah, have fun. We'll take it easy on everybody else, and you're just gonna eat it. I just don't see that happening. Just don't see that happening like that. Just don't see that happening. So, um, Eric is saying, aren't they soft on first-time offenders in Minnesota? This isn't that really we're going to go over this in a second, guys, but I'm going to explain to you the statute they have here in Minnesota. I mean, Ohio has one, and Ohio statute is actually a little more forgiving than Minnesota's. But no, first-time drug offenders getting a decent deal is not like this is kind of par for the course. And we want this for society. I know you guys, like, I get it. People don't like Nick, and people want to see Nick go making license plates for the next 20 years. And they wanted to see Nick come out of prison looking like Wes Watson. I get it. But that doesn't benefit society. And I remember I've said it before. Do we benefit from putting this person in prison? Does it help society? And generally the answer is no, so we shouldn't be doing it. Let's see here. Where are we? So we're going to keep going here. And it says that if the court doesn't approve this agreement, and this is written in here in pen, that doesn't change the issue in this case. I've had plea agreements before where we add in something at the last minute or we change something, and instead of running down the hallway, the prosecutor go print out a new copy or something. It's just easier to write it in, and then we just sign it like normal. And then we just, on the record, the judge reading through it, and he says, I noticed this is judge says, I noticed there's a handwritten count here, and condition is blah 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 blah. And we say, yes, Your Honor, we agree to that. Prosecutor says, yep, I agree. That's a correct recitation of facts. So that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. And then it says, if the court doesn't approve this agreement, I have an absolute right to then withdraw my plea of guilty and have a trial. He says, any testimony I have given concerning the guilty plea cannot be used against me unless I'm charged with a crime of perjury based on the testimony. And then he says, 21, he's saying that except for the agreement between my attorney and the prosecutor, no one, including my attorney, any police officer, prosecutor, judge, or any other person has made any promises to me, to any member of my family, to any of my friends or other persons in order to obtain a plea of guilty from me. And that's always asked, have you been coerced? Are you doing this under duress? Have any promises been made outside of this agreement to induce your plea? And that no one, including my attorney, any officer, prosecutor, judge, or any person, has threatened me or any member of my family or friends in order to obtain this guilty plea. Let's see. Where are you guys? Oh, hold on here, chat. Hold on. Wait, what's that? Yep. Flash, how are you doing, man? Where? Oh, yeah. How are you doing, Flash? Hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're doing well. I'd like to stay clean and be a good father. Well, there's the road to that starts now, I guess, because before he's on the I could do whatever I want bond, and that's not gonna end. It's not gonna that ends very quickly. It's gonna end very quickly. But that said, though, he goes on to number 22. My attorney told me I understand that if I plea, that my plea of guilty is for any reason not accepted by the court, or if I withdraw the plea with the court's approval, which you always have the right to withdraw your plea through leave of court, but you do have the ability to do it prior to sentencing. After sentencing, you can, but it's really, really hard. Before it should be liberally granted withdrawing your plea before sentencing. And that could be right up to the minute of sentencing. I did an appeal probably about 3-4 months ago. Actually, yeah, it's about 3-4 months ago. The guy ended up wanting to change his plea right before sentencing. He came into court and he's like, Your Honor, I want to withdraw my plea. And the judge said, fuck you, ain't doing that. And the court of appeals like, the fuck you ain't. He gets to withdraw his plea. And yeah, the guy ended up pushing it to trial and they ended up cutting him a smoking deal. So happens. Also, that was like one of the easier appeals I got to write. It was like pretty quick. One I got hired for, and the thing that sucks about doing appellate work, most people don't hire you. You're normally appointed because the people who generally can hire you for an appeal, well, they blew their money on their attorney. Then he says, or if this plea is withdrawn by court order on appeal or other review. He says, I would, and that's the thing. The Court of Appeals could say this is a bad plea. You can't do it. Something is structurally defective in it. We have to, this doesn't count. That he would stand trial on the original charge and charges, and that's true. The prosecution could proceed against me as if there had been no plea of guilty and no plea agreement, and that's true. The prosecutor never has to offer you a plea agreement. They can just say the plea agreement could be plea to the charges, fuck you. And I've had cases like that before as a prosecutor where I did that. The guy had it, the attorney comes in, hey man, what's your plea offer? Plea to the indictment. Now, in this situation, there's a lot of times where it's like, okay, yeah, here's a plea deal. But you don't have to offer one. You don't have to offer a deal that's good. And then he says, from there, he says, my attorney has told me, and I understand that my plea guilty is accepted by the judge. I have the right to appeal. You always have the right to appeal. You have the right to appeal as a matter of right. Meaning you have the ability to automatically appeal. And it's not a discretionary appeal. But that any appeal or other court action I may take claiming error in the proceedings, probably would be useless and a waste of my time in the courts. Now, that's just an acknowledgement, and typically it is, chat. When people appeal sentencings or plea hearings, there are, through the rules of criminal procedure and decades of case law, what are acceptable ways to do a plea hearing and to do a sentencing. And the judges go through judicial college and they have conferences. And if some judge fucks up and the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court says that's not acceptable anymore, they learn that and then they get notes. And, you know, if you ever notice a judge, if you're ever in a situation where you see a judge is brand new, even if they've been an attorney for a while, they're going to you're going to see that they're going to be reading off kind of like a checklist, basically like a script. Now, as they've been a judge for a while, you know, a judge who's been doing it for years and years on end, they do a lot of pleas. They can do enough of them where they're just sitting there and kind of like I'm talking to you guys. You can talk about, you know, like, hi, what's your name? How old are you? You know, what's your level of education? Do you understand the English language? Do you understand your trial rights? Do you understand what happens here? You go, boom, 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 done. So you can tell there's a difference in that. But there might be a time when the court fucks up. The court fucks up the plea hearing. Sometimes that happens. Very rarely, but it does. And most of the people who enter appeals, most people are appealing a sentence because they just don't like it. You know, like they knew they were going to prison, but they're just like, I don't like going to prison. It's like, well, shit, it doesn't fucking matter. You're going to prison. This plea was done. The plea was done correctly. Or as Trump would say, it was the perfect plea hearing. You know, the perfect plea hearing and the perfect sentencing. And by the way, I don't know if any of you were here tonight that weren't here last night. Whoever sent this to me, thank you. This is hilarious. I love it. And then my attorney that has told me, and I understand, that a judge will not accept a plea of guilty for anyone who claims to be innocent. Yeah, so this right here, this is another way of saying this ain't Aaron's Coke. It wasn't Aaron's Coke. And I now make no claim that I am innocent. It's not Aaron's Coke. It's Nick's Coke. I wasn't there, and how do they know it's mine? And it's like, you know, like all the questions a first-year law student even knows the answer to. Nope, it's mine. This is a complete and full admission of guilt to possessing cocaine in the third degree. It's a complete and full admission to that. There is no actionalese or asterisk on it. You know, nope, it's mine. It's mine. So it'll be interesting to see if Nick, once again, can keep his mouth shut going forward. Because as Nick, when comments come in, Nick's like, well, it could have been a steel-toe man's. Or, as he said again with Chrissy, how do you know the police didn't plan? I never said that. It's like, no, he's going to have to own to it. Yeah, it's mine. Yep. You know, or he can just ignore the questions. But if he does feel compelled to answer them, he's got to say, yeah, it's mine. Because if he starts running around screaming, no, it's not mine. It's all a conspiracy. The government played telephone. And then they planted the drugs in my kid's hair. It's like, you know, I'm just saying, you start making those lunatic arguments again, the state's going to learn about that, and they'll be like, well, he's not being serious about this. So that's free advice. It's free advice for anybody out there who needs it. If you end up eating the claim, you're done. Then he says, I've been told by my attorney, and I understand that if I wished to plead not guilty and have a jury trial, if I could testify I want to, can I testify? And then said nobody could comment on, I forgot this down here at the bottom, that neither the prosecutor nor the judge could comment on my failure to testify. I don't know why they don't put all the trial rights together. Like I said, everybody does them differently, but around here, like everywhere I've been in Ohio, your trial rights are kind of like all squished together as one section. It's kind of like broken down into sections as far as things go. There are things on here that we don't see, though. That, like, if he's placed on probation, how long could probation be? You know, like how those things would work and how long would conditional release be and how are those things calculated? In Ohio, you also get the right to be advised of, like, you're able to earn good time credit. How much good time credit can you earn? And through other programs, how much more time can you earn off? So that's why, like I said, this one's a little different. There's just a lot of stuff here that I don't, yeah. So anyway, just some things here. Then he says, my attorneys told me, and I understand that if I'm not a citizen of the United States, That with knowledge of my right not to testify and that neither the judge nor the prosecutor could comment on my failure to testify at trial, I now waive and give up this right, and I will tell the judge the facts of the crime. Now, guys, remember how I told you, as part of a plea, you have to do the allocution. And the judge is going to say, Mr. Rekieta, is it true that on or about May 23rd, 2024, you did in fact possess cocaine, and you did possess drugs as a felony of third degree, and particularly 2-wick cocaine. And did that happen? And Nick's going to say yes. And the judge might say, tell me what happened. Now, normally, like I said, you don't have to give a massive speech. It doesn't have to sound like something out of Tolkien. But you have to say, yeah, I had drugs in my house and I had cocaine in my house and the police found it. And you got to say something like that. So if the allocution, that'll be in there, that'll be on, the court's going to ask. Now, the court may ask, some judges ask more questions like, well, what was going on? Tell me about it a little bit. Some don't. Some say, that's good enough. And then he says, my attorney has told me, and I understand that if I'm not a citizen of the United States, this plea of guilty may result in deportation, exclusion from admission to the U.S., or denial of citizenship. So if you are just here and you commit a felony, you got to go back. Got to go back. You can then be denied re-entry to the United States. Or if you're in the process of getting citizenship or getting a green card, you could be denied that. And then you're going to have to go back. And that is something you have the right to know, because if you don't know that, you can claim, I didn't make the plea knowingly, because I didn't know this was going to happen. And that immigration concerns are a very serious risk. So that is something that I think pretty much everybody has, this idea. And usually it's right at the end like this. And it says, in view of all the above facts, I wish I would plead guilty, dated January 24th, squiggle, 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 signed by Nick Robert Rekieta. His address down here, and rekietalaw@rekieta.org. And yep, and here you go, chat. These are all the forms. You could probably find them if you go online, you want to look for them. You can look for that. So that is the plea form. And that's it. That is it in this situation here. Let's see here. Let's see, where are you guys at right now? I can't believe Long Crime won. Oh, funny. I don't think he can go to Canada with a felony. Can't, and a lot of countries will not allow you entry. So if he wants to travel overseas, it's going to be very difficult at times. He's going to have to find out ahead of time, hey, country X, Y, and Z, am I allowed inside your, will you allow me in with a felony? Some places will, some places won't. So yeah, it really will restrict your ability to go around and do things. Can he go to Jamaica? I don't know. I don't know if he can go to Jamaica. That's going to be interesting if he can. Let's see here. Mr. 9x19 says, did Joe Biden sign this? Wow, time to make cursive great again. See, I don't understand why people think cursive is a great signature. All that's doing a signature in cursive is almost like printing it out, because it's like, it's not unique to you. If what my signature isn't cursive. My signature is a mark. It's I've got a special way of doing it and all that, but the idea of just signing your name and signature like cursive, I don't really see how that's really a signature either. So, let's see here. You guys are asking some questions here. Deport Nick to Mexico. Nick gets ported back to Baldonia. Lolita Smile says, I agree. Using drugs shouldn't be a crime. Just like if you guys have watched the movie Blow, and Johnny Depp is in federal court in the 60s talking about his marijuana trafficking charge. He's like, all he did was cross imaginary lines. And the judge says, that may be true, but that imaginary line was very real. And that was the border between two states. You know what? If you feel like it should be, okay, but it is. Like, I wish bad things I wish people, I wish my grandparents didn't die. Cool. They fucking died. It shouldn't be a crime. Okay, cool. Now in reality, it still is a crime. So I wish the NFA didn't exist and this Glock could have a switchy on it. I wish I could switchy this bitch up and walk out in the street and just burn. But I can't. It is what it is. Let's see here. Get into the crystal, Nick. And it's not getting into the crystal. We're going to talk about what this actual statute he pled to and how this is administered here. We're going to get to this in a second here. All right, so a couple different things. Jim tells you, how you doing, Jim? He says, the best possible outcome he could have hoped for at this point, as long as he doesn't screw up, he won't have a conviction on his record. And we're going to talk about that. Tim and Tam's been a member for 3 months. Thank you, Tim. He says, 10 subs to celebrate the fall of the Pope. And the defrocking of the law Pope. Johan has been a member for 7 months, and he says, Sean is looking skinny these days. Keep it up, man. Okay, not skinny. I have lost a little weight. The problem is when you're really fucking fat, losing a little bit of weight means you're still really fucking fat. Just not as much. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Tony Galati is saying the probation officer is going to send Nick to jail if they're slipping on an empty nitrous can in the Baldo bunker. Yeah. Cerebral Parasite's been a member for 3 months. Thank you for being here. It says fart. Or is that meant to be like in asterisk, so it's just meant the fart noise? I don't know. Either way, thank you. Thank you for the comment. Tony says, will Nick get another scuffed Reinhard Heydrich haircut after pleading guilty? I don't know. It's a little cold up there. Cutting the sides too short. Kind of sucks in the cold. Frosted Chaos says, didn't Kayla get a worse child endangerment charge? In a sense, she did, at least the way it was worded, but it still didn't make... I really would like to know the logic and the reasoning behind why she had a different charge than Nick did. But yes, she had a different one, but it was in the same statute. So it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, because if one did it, presumably they both did it, but it's not clear what exactly that was all about. We actually took care of that. JL Dubs is saying, explain to me how drugs are bad. Because the government says they're bad. I mean, but that said, though, if drugs are bad in the sense of you start doing drugs and you neglect your family and your kids don't get clothed, they don't bathe, they don't really eat well, and then you forget to pay your mortgage, and then your kids almost risk getting thrown out on the street. There are secondary, tertiary victims and problems with drug use. Just the drug use itself may not be bad, but that doesn't mean it's not a good idea. And I will say, drugs are not cool. Drugs lead to a lot of fucking problems. Monograph. Hi, Monty. How you doing? Isaac Baruch's wholesome gabagool art says, Nick in jail is boring, but him dancing around for 2 years to keep his probation deal is hilarious. But the best outcome aside for the kids. Sorry, younglings. So let's see here. See, where are we? So I'm losing track. Where is that here? Pete Hegseth. Oh, Green Cap says, Brendan, member for 10 months. Thanks, man. It says Pete Hegseth was just confirmed. There we go. Total DEI death. There we go, chat. That's some good news. Hopefully things go well for the DOD going forward. Good luck out there. Hopefully you have a boss that gives a fuck now if you're in the military. Now, total Crusader victory. Roderick saying, Nick, we lost the case. Yes, drugs aren't cool, says the uncool nerd lawyer. Yes. Oh, I know. That's okay. Yeah, I don't do drugs. I'm a nerd. Oh, no. I'll never recover from that. I'll never recover. Drugs make you cool and grown up. Yeah. Oh. Chris is saying, any comment regarding the 2 C-17s illegal aliens being denied landing permission into Mexico? Yeah, if I'm Trump, then say, fine, we'll tax all your motherfucking remittances. They'll go, ay, los míos. No, bring them all back. It's okay. Por favor, El Presidente Trump. Do that and they will squeal like bitches. So And it doesn't matter. If we have to buck break the nation of Mexico, we will do it. Or we will do El Broken Los Bucco. I don't know how I don't speak Spanish, so whatever. They'll get the point. They'll get the point. So, now let's say, guys, what's the statute we saw? 152.18. This is in the Minnesota statutes here. This is a charge and dismissal, and it's deferred prosecution for certain first-time drug offenders. Now, we have this here in Ohio. It's called intervention in lieu of conviction. There might be other names for it in other places, but the idea that if you have a drug problem, this isn't outlandish to have. Like, this makes a lot of sense to do for people. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense because we do want to give people a chance. And if people are serious about it and they can get better, we want some redemption for people, because otherwise, like, fucking people over and giving them a felony, like, as the meme goes, the cop says, drugs are going to ruin your life. And I'm going to help you by ruining your life with a felony conviction. It's like, but you didn't help anybody. So you should be able to do it in a way that helps and takes care of people. So this is how that works, and how we do this here. So this is the actual Sorry, I forgot to bring this up, chat, the way that works. So this is how that works here. If we get to 25K, will I do a 24-hour stream? No. So, actually, hold on. Why did this not work? Why did this not work? Okay, never mind. That didn't matter here. All right. So how does it say? So the deferring prosecution for certain first-time drug offenders. This is we do want this. I do think there's an advantage to this, giving people a chance if they do get on top of it and can beat this. I think they should. It's not a bad idea. FaZe Raja is saying, did they give him a sentence already? No. Nick has not been sentenced yet. His sentence is April 18th. So we've got a ways away. And in the meantime, they're going to basically get Nick assessed for this stuff here to figure out what they're going to do for him. So that's kind of where the road ahead for Nick lies is, what are they going to do and how is he going to get his treatment? So he says a court can defer prosecution for any person found guilty after trial or upon a guilty plea in a violation of sections here. And it talks about the sections for possession of a controlled substance who you haven't participated in the program previously or done a diversion program as they specify. You have not previously been placed on probation without a judgment of guilty and thereafter been discharged under the section, meaning you were given like a deferred adjudication. You have not been convicted of a felony in violation of this chapter, meaning a drug felony, including a felony level attempt or a conspiracy charge, or been convicted by the United States or another state of a similar offense that would have been a felony under this chapter if committed in Minnesota, unless it's older than 10 years. And it says in the discharge of sentence. So discharge of sentence doesn't just mean from your conviction. Discharging of your sentence means when your sentence was fully completed. So if you were sent to prison and you get released, you said do 5 years, you do 5 years, that's your discharge. If you're on probation for a year and then you complete probation and then your case is over, that's your discharge. That's the discharge of your sentence. So it's not just your conviction or your sentencing, but it's when your case is fully done and the court has no authority over you anymore. That is what this is focusing on, and that's how they're doing this here. You guys, jeez. No, I don't think Monty planted the coke. I don't think that happened, chat. All right. Why is this being weird? Oh, well, Just Kill Nightmare says, I'm sure it was mentioned before, but does this mean we've got the body cam coming out soon? I don't know exactly. I got to talk to Matt Harding because he's a Minnesota attorney. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know, though. So further, though, the court must defer prosecution as provided for any person found guilty if that person who meets the criteria listed in paragraph A through parts 1 through 3, and they've not previously been convicted of a felony offense under any state or federal law or of a gross misdemeanor. So Nick qualifies. So must is the big thing here, chat. This is not discretionary. This is must. Must means they have to do it. Now, that is the nice thing in Minnesota. That's mandatory. In Ohio, it's not guaranteed. But generally, courts are very liberal with it, and there's a idea the court should encourage it. But in Minnesota, he has to do it as long as it qualifies. So, in granting the relief under this section, the court shall, without entering a judgment of guilty and with the consent of the person, because he has to ask Nick about that, he says, defer further proceedings and place the person on probation upon such reasonable conditions as it may require for a period not to exceed the maximum sentence provided for the violation that he actually pled to. Now, so what does that mean? The way this works is Nick has entered a plea of guilty and the court isn't going to accept it. But the judge is going to say, and as I said before, and I mentioned this before, I think on different streams, chat, a diversion or intervention program, the court accepts your plea of guilty, but it doesn't find you guilty. It withholds the finding of guilt. So without entering the judgment, it basically hits pause on the entire process. And then that term of probation, and it's not necessarily probation, it's the deferred prosecution and the deferred adjudication or the intervention program. Nick completes his programming, however long it is. Generally, it's like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And then he comes back and he's like, look, judge, I did it. And the judge goes, okay, cool. And they never hit play and they throw the case out. Now, if he fucks up, the court comes back and says, oh, Nick, you fucked up. Hits play and says, you pled guilty. I now find you guilty. And now I'm going to felony sentence you. So that's how this works here. Now, the way this is going to work is the court may give the person the opportunity to attend and participate in an appropriate program of education regarding the nature and effects of alcohol and the drug use as a stipulation of probation. Now, they also might have him want to get into treatment. Part of why they're probably going to push this out is the judge is going to want Nick to get a drug and alcohol assessment. Then it's going to be follow all recommendations. And if there are recommendations, he's not going to be able to complete them right away within just a couple of months. It's going to take a while. And not only that, but they're going to want to see long-term, can you fucking mind yourself? Because clearly, if they just let him off right now, Nick will go back to drinking right away. He'd go back to doing coke right away. As he says, like, I want to go back to drinking. I know he says, like, well, I tried drinking and it doesn't taste good. It's like, I guarantee if you could told him right now, hey, Nick, here you go. You could drink and do coke again. I'm sure he'd be like, just like, right into it like it's a pair of tits. Like, he'd be all about it. Or like it's Aaron's loins. He'd just be all about it. Just disappearing into it. He would be all about it. And that's okay. But the court's like, no, I don't want that. So you're going to have to be a good boy for a while. And then it says, upon violation of a condition of the probation, the court may enter the adjudication of guilt, proceed as otherwise provided. As I said, that's the bad. If things don't work out, the court hits play and proceeds with normal felony sentencing. The court may, in its discretion, so this is discretionary, dismiss the proceedings against the person and discharge the person for probation before the expiration of the maximum period prescribed for the person's probation. Meaning, even if the judge says, let's say 2 years, but let's say a year from now, things are going really well. The judge's like, I don't need to do extra time. Nick doesn't need this. He's doing really well. I'm terminating it early. We're done. He can do that. He can do that. He can totally do that. So, they can terminate probation early, but it's up to the judge. The judge can be like, no, I think you still need to work on stuff. And then if during the period of probation, the person does not violate any of the conditions, then upon expiration, the court shall chat, shall means they must perform. They have to do it. They are ordered to. They cannot do this. They are obligated to do this. It's not like the judges in the District of Columbia who are fucking around with these guys' dismissals or trying to introduce further terms of probation on people who get commutations. No. State law says, judge, you will fucking do this. And the judge has to go, yes, boss, I'll do it. If Nick fully complies, it'll discharge the person and dismiss the proceedings against that person. The discharge shall be without the adjudication of guilt, but not a public record of it shall be retained by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for the purpose of use by courts in determining the merits of subsequent proceedings against the person. So that's what the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is, the state crime organization, not, the government committing crimes. Okay, yes, they do. But you might hear if like you're in different states, like the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. In Ohio, it's called the Bureau of Criminal Investigation Identification. They're in charge of maintaining the state lead system and the state system regarding things. And that's the thing here. But not a public record shall be retained by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for the purpose of use by courts in determining the merits of subsequent proceedings. The not public record may also be opened only upon court order for purposes of a criminal investigation, prosecution, or sentencing. Meaning, once again, chat, if you get your records expunged or sealed, the court holds on to them. The court doesn't just like throw it all away and then they pretend like you've never been there. Because if they did that, then you basically getting expungements would just be a never-ending cycle. Because if there was no record of it ever again, the court could never claim you did it. So this is how the court does this. They hold on to it. And the police have a record. And so, like, I've had clients before where they've gotten an expungement or they've gotten a seal or they got a diversion program previously. Okay, well, it was completed. And the judge will say, sorry, you're not eligible for diversion. We have proof you already did it once. Or your records were already sealed. Or your records were expunged in Minnesota previously. So the prosecutor's not going to do it here. Because otherwise they would never have the ability to prove or know it. So we will not be able to see it online anymore. And we wouldn't be able to go to the courthouse and get a copy of it. But the court would hold on to it because let's say Nick got in trouble again with cocaine. They'd say, well, we're not giving you this option again because you already fucked that up. And so I hope that makes sense, you guys. I hope that makes sense. The way they talk about this not public record thing, the way they say this is just kind of goofy. I think they made it really stupid the way they did that. Let's see here. Let's see here. What else? I'm just trying to check here. So they say, upon receipt of notice that the proceedings are dismissed, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension shall notify the arresting or citing law enforcement agency and direct that agency to seal its records related to the charge. Upon request by law enforcement prosecution, or corrections authorities, the Bureau shall notify the requesting party of the existence of the not public record and the right to seek a court order to open it pursuant to this section. The court shall forward a record of any discharge or dismissal to the Bureau, which shall make and maintain the not public record of it as provided in the subdivision. The discharge or dismissal shall not be deemed a conviction for purposes of disqualifications or disabilities imposed by law upon conviction of any crime for any other purpose. And that's true. So he wouldn't be prohibited in any way for what normally would be a disability or disqualification under the law for felony convictions because it's not a conviction. Now, this is something I've had to explain to clients before when they want to get their record sealed or they get an expungement, however you wish to prefer it. The internet is forever. So while the court records may not show up, when you go to like Intellis, Been Verified, all those kind of bullshit people finding websites, and why do I say they're bullshit? Because they say at the bottom, you can't use these for credit reporting purposes or Fair Debt Collection Practice Act stuff. Like, we're not certifying these are legitimate because their ass would be on the line. And they're not usually they're correct to an extent, but sometimes not. Once I Googled myself on one of those and it was like a bunch of shit that wasn't true, like that I'd lived in California before. It's like, yeah, that never happened. Among other things. So that's the thing. Like, people will be able to find it. Companies, if you try to get a job, the private background checks that are used by companies that hoover up internet data. this will still pop up. Now, that doesn't, that says though, have you been convicted of a crime? He could write no, and that's correct. But they can see it, and then they can say, yeah, we heard about this, and they can still hold it against him. That said, though, for example, many state licensing issues or whatever it is, um, they'll say, have you been convicted, or have you, expunged or exiled? You have to tell us what happened. So, for example, when you apply to a state, and this was when I was in law school. Did you have your record sealed as a juvenile? Did you have your record sealed as an adult? If you did, you have to fucking tell us what fucking happened. It doesn't matter. We have the right to know. And that's because they're a state agency. They have the right to demand all that information. And they have access to, they can access it. And you can, sign waivers and do all that. So this helps him in the regards of, he hasn't been, there's no court record of it that exists anymore, but it's, the internet's forever. So this all doesn't go away. And these records still will exist. So yeah, that's the issue there. That's the issue there. A logistical nightmare, it says on Rumble for $5. I'm sure it was mentioned before, but does this mean we've got Bycam coming out soon? Yeah. I don't know the answer, and we'll find out. We're going to find out together, because I don't know. And maybe we will, maybe we won't. But even then, here's the thing, guys. If it doesn't, we know what happened. We saw where, like, the CPS hearing where Nick's dad was like, yeah, it took us like a whole weekend to clean the house. And it sounds like it was still a crack shack at the end of it. And it was just barely, like, habitable at that point. A group of adults cleaning it couldn't get it clean. And so sounds like it was a fucking mess. This idea, Nick's like, oh, they rubbed my kid's hair, and I'm totally sure that's exactly how it happened. I mean, maybe it is. The problem is Nick is not a reliable narrator, so we can't trust him. But we'll see. But even if it doesn't show up, it doesn't change what we know and don't know. BobTube is saying, this does not sound like Nick at all. Brad is saying Nick will fail because he thinks he still doesn't have a problem. Yeah, I mean, he says all that, but it's kind of one of those deals. You can tell, he can say whatever he wants to us, but it really comes down to what do you tell the man in the glass every day when you look at him. And if he's telling, staring at the mirror, like, can he say that every day? And if he does, well, yeah, he does have a problem, but is he willing to be honest? Who knows? We'll see. Johan saying, I've got $20 on 14.88 days. Bella says, if a counselor can reach Nick and convince him he has a problem, he might be okay and get clean and stay clean. Yeah, but I mentioned this before, and other people have mentioned this too. Like, it's true. You only get better when you want to get better. So, if he's not willing to get better, we'll find out. We'll find out. Nick Rekieta smoke it on that uncivil pack. Says Sean needs to apologize to Nicholas Robert Rekieta for slander. Well, I mean, well, there's a better fucking chance the Ukrainian army pushes the Russians out of every square inch of 2014 Ukraine before that ever fucking happens. Let me tell you what. I'm just saying, Aaron. The idea that it's slander, I don't know, man. The truest knives cut the deepest. So I don't think it's slander. Don't think it's slander. Obscure destinations outdoors. Ron, how you doing? He says, it's been my experience that people with Nick's type personality, lifestyle, and charges typically violate probation in the first 48 hours. When I worked as a CO, I booked in hundreds for violations of probation. Maybe. I'm willing to give him, I'm willing, can do it. I mean, anybody can do it. It's not impossible. So it's up to him. It's up to him what he wants to see happen. I don't know about 2 days. Besides that is, I mean, yes, I've had a lot of clients fuck up probation very quickly. I've never had I've had 1 or 2 in 2 days. I will say I am lucky though. I've never had somebody violate within a day or that same day, but I have had, I know attorneys who there was a protection order out, and that day they fucking called the person or contacted them or saw them, and it's like they were only out of court for an hour and the person's already violating. So it does happen. Jimmy Touchdown is saying Nick will automatically be disbarred for this plea under. Actually, well, if you're saying that's going to happen here, okay. LR, which you're saying he'll automatically, and I don't know if that'll be automatic, but you're saying 83.6 D2. Let's see. We'll take a look, chat. 0.6 D as in D's nuts. Let's see what it says here. Okay. Ooh, all right. All right. So here we go. This'll work. All right, chat. So you're saying, well, this is for the United States District Court for the District of Minnesota. So this is not correct. This is for federal court. So I'm not trying to mog on you or anything like that. This is just not correct because this is for federal court. Nick's not in federal court. And it's attorney discipline, so it's the court for the District of Minnesota and how federal court governs stuff. So, but they talk about for D2, it says automatic discipline, criminal acts. Unless otherwise ordered, an attorney who pleads guilty or has been convicted of a crime set forth in C2 automatically forfeits the right to practice before this court. Well, what are the crimes there? So it says C2, conviction of a crime. So it says any crime punishable by incarceration for more than 1 year. So that would qualify Nick if Nick was practicing in federal court. So it's not automatic. Now, at some point, will the state of Minnesota and the bar get involved? Oh, shit. You guys probably want to see this. Sorry, chat. This is for district court. This is federal. So in federal court, yes, he would be automatically suspended. And that's the thing. When you are, there isn't a federal, like, the discipline isn't generally done by the federal court. They may sanction you for misconduct and things like that. But ultimately, they generally refer you your governing and licensing authority from that state. So if Nick was in federal court and something happened and he fucked up there, they refer him to the Minnesota Supreme Court or the Minnesota Bar, and they would handle it. But in this situation, this is only for attorneys in federal court. So it's the district court for the District of Minnesota, which is not where we are. We're in state court. So it's not automatic, but they will be getting to him at some point. Like, they ain't going to forget about this. But they also will wait, unless it's an emergency, until the case has been resolved. And by resolved, once he's put on this deferred adjudication or this deferred prosecution situation, they'll wait until that's happened. And then they'll say, hey, Nick, we need to talk to you about, this drug use and what's going on. Because technically the court hasn't finished its business with him. And he could say that's not fair. I could still withdraw my plea and go to trial and, be innocent and all that. So the bar and the government, the licensing won't happen yet. So I appreciate you looking into it. But yeah, it's just, you have to just double check where you're looking, because sometimes you might be a little off. And that's, it's no big deal. No big deal. But I thank you for bringing it up. Access house. Where is, hold on here. Did he, hold on, pop in here? Hayden, did he show up? And say, hey, Hayden. Is saying good. How are you doing, by the way? Guys, Aussie Overlord. Take a look if you have the chance. Doing it upside down in the future. So he's always ahead of the curve over there in Australia. He says, the fastest breach I saw was on the steps in the way out of the courthouse. I have heard about that. I've just never had a client do that. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. That's never been my client. Although I have seen an attorney, or I'll call later today. I'm like, hey man, guess what I just saw your client doing? It's like, fuck. Happens sometimes. So anyways, guys, say hello to Hayden. Always doing things out there. Give him a shout. He might be up your alley. Robot Glock is saying your PO has a lot of power. They can overlook a lot or ring you up for the slightest violations. They can, but generally when you're on these type of supervised, like intervention programs or diversion programs, they generally run it's a lot tighter because you're not on like probation. So you don't get as much slack in your chain usually. But he's basically going to have to abide by the terms of probation because they're the ones who supervise it. And they're going to treat him like he's on probation. There'll be additional terms. But yeah, he's going to go in and sign. He's going to have to do all the normal things like I got to have a job. I'm going to have to check in. If they tell me to come in, I have to come in. If I have to, I'll be subject to testing. If I refuse the test, that'll be considered a positive. I can't leave the state without permission. They might even say you can't leave Ojai County without permission. Considering Nick works at home, they might say that. Like, look, if you're going to go anywhere, you got to tell us your fucking schedule. Now, they might say, if you're doing things, we won't generally get in the way of it, but Nick can't just like la-di-da and wander about. Definitely, he's not going to be allowed to leave the state of Minnesota without written authorization. So, yeah, going to Hackamania, like, I don't know, like, is he going to be able to do that? Maybe, but it's going to be a bit of a hard sell to tell your probation officer, hey, look, I got caught with a ton of cocaine and everything, and yeah, I may have had a bit of a drinking issue previously, but I'm going to Las Vegas just to hang out. But I promise I'll be like honest, edge, and sober, like I promise. That might be a tough sell. Maybe a tough sell. Maybe he gets it. He's like, look, I'm just going to do comedy. Sure. But that's a tough one. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Tim Beatty says they don't earn the conviction, so no disbarment. Oh, no. No, that's not true at all. You don't have to be convicted to be disciplined. Nick is admitted to drug use. And they have the right to question his character and fitness at this point. They are not just going to let this slide. They can fully discipline him. The idea he would get disbarred, yeah, that's not happening, but they have the full right to suspend him and discipline him and make him, perform whatever hurdles they want to before he can practice again or have a valid law license. Like they 100% can do that. We've seen examples of that. Like there are times you could get disciplined based on what you say or do. So yeah, this doesn't absolve Nick of that. He is not out of the woods. Unless you meant just disbarment period, sure. But if you meant just any bar discipline, no, he is not immune from that. He is not immune from that. Let's see here. Every streamer is a narcissist in their own way. Even Sean. Well, yeah. Like, no shit. Yeah. And I don't think anybody would deny that. Don't think anybody would deny that. The same thing happened to Clyde and is now why he sleeps on Sean's couch. Oh, no. Oh, no. Let's see here. Bella's saying, so Kayla doesn't have to go to court? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's set up. Maybe she has to go to court for the state to say formally, Your Honor, we dismiss charges. Who knows? Maybe it'll just be a written dismissal. A written dismissal that, prosecutor and attorney sign as like a joint entry and the judge signs off on it. Don't know. She may have to go to court at some point. So we will find out. Do whippets show up on drug tests? No, because it's nitrous oxide. Like that wouldn't show up on the test. I mean, they have to test your blood for nitrous, and I don't know, like, you have to show how, like what, because the high of that is very quick and it hits hard. Like if you ever watch the people like on intervention where they're huffing duster, you're like like for a good little bit, but then you're kind of like back to normal. I mean, it really fucking scrambles your egg, but then you're back. Obviously, you're frying your brain while you're doing it, but you come back. So it's not something they can test. It's not something that's, in urine or saliva or blood that they can test in a way that would be meaningful. So, Haschick saying, what are the terms of that, this thing? We don't know yet. And the reason why we don't know yet is he comes back in April. So in the meantime, Nick is going to complete a peace sentence investigation report. He's even talked about that. The judge needs to know everything he can about Nick. And more importantly, because there's drug use involved, he needs to know everything about the drug use. What happened? Why did it happen? How long has he been using drugs? Nick's going to have to be really honest. And he's going to say, oh, I only use like cocaine once in a while. Nobody's going to believe that. How often are you drinking? And if he says, oh, once in a while, they're going to be like, well, judge, it shows him drinking all the fucking time and drinking to like blackout daily on the internet. So the judge needs to know all this, and he's going to have to sit down and say, what's the proper thing? He's going to probably order, like I said, follow all the recommendations from that drug and alcohol assessment. Does he have to go to meetings? Is he going to have to go like an IOP program? I know Nick went to something or whatever that was, but when you listen to him, like that's going to be all admissible, where the probation department or the state's going to say, Your Honor, he went to a thing, but he basically said it was like a fucking joke, and he said it didn't matter to him because apparently he's better than those people. So once again, that's where when you're talking, you're fucking hurting yourself. But he's gonna have to go to, probably take classes, do different things. The judge is gonna give terms later. I still think one of the terms we're probably gonna find out is he can't hang out with April. Sorry to hear that, Nick. I mean, you can tell how fondly he misses. Like, I miss her. Hanging around people who enable your drug use is never a good idea. So we don't want people to relapse. Now, Nick and Kayla are married, and they have a family, so the court's not going to separate them, and that makes it tough. I mean, there are times for people who are both working through their sobriety, they can rely on each other, but that also becomes an issue that they're relying on each other. That causes stress, and when you start stressing and things get elevated, you then use again. And that's the cycle of things happen is what is it that causes me to use? The stress. Well, what do I do and how do I cope with that? And I'm not saying cope in the funny way, but coping tools. How do I handle stress if things are getting tough? What is my plan? You guys know people are alcoholics. Part of when you have a sponsor is like, what do I do? What's my, do I have steps I need to follow? Okay, maybe I need to go for a run or go do this or go do that. Or if there's I have my emergency plan. If I feel like I'm about to use, is there somebody I can call? Is there somewhere I can go? Is there something I can do? Those are all the things he's going to have to work on. And so is Kayla. But yes, when you have a husband and wife or people in a household together, that makes it even tougher for sobriety. But it's not impossible. Not impossible. Not impossible. So let's see. Is blogging a job? Well, I mean, Nick is a content creator. And yeah, I mean, he made it. He made a lot of fucking money off of it. So yeah, the court also could theoretically order him like, no, go get some fucking W-2 employment. That could happen too. I don't see that happening, but it's possible. Nick can't go to hedonism too. Yeah, I'm right now. No. Could see court order rehab. Well, you have to be careful with that because generally speaking, courts are going to be honest enough to say, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know what he needs. But whoever is doing his assessments and treatment, if they say, and that's the thing where that's how the court gets around that, because he'll say, I'm ordering you to get an assessment and follow all recommendations. That's how he can tell Nick, he basically is saying, do whatever the fuck they tell you to do. That way he's not ordering it because he's not the doctor. He doesn't know what's best. He's not in a position to prescribe or treat people, but instead he'll order Nick to follow the actual professionals and their treatment recommendations and what they want to happen. So that's how you get around that issue. That's how you get around that issue. But I understand what you're saying there. Jerry Last says, I got what Nick did for a DUI. I got a suspended imposition, had to blow 2 times a day for a month. Couldn't have guns for a year, was on probation 3 years, but once over and went off my record. That's nice because we don't have that in Ohio. You can't seal a DUI in Ohio, but that's nice you have them. This game like it says, so bad as judge. Armand saying, oh, he can't drink too? Certainly. I mean, that's normally a condition of probation, especially when you have, it's one thing if you're like probation for like forgery or something, like might be allowed to drink alcohol. You probably get away with it. But you're on probation for drug use. And it's also true. There was a lot of poly substance abuse is the technical term for it. Polysubstance abuse. When all this happened, Nick was abusing the shit out of alcohol. He was abusing the shit out of cocaine. Yeah, generally when you have a drug conviction like this, they're not going to let you drink because if you have a drug problem and they're concerned about you using again, keeping you from drinking is a good thing because when you start drinking, what happens? You pretty much go right back into using drugs. So, yeah, they're not going to let you do it. Not going to let you do that. Not going to let you do that. Deanna's saying, can you imagine asking the courts for permission to go visit your parents? I mean, depending on what travel restrictions he has, that might have to be the case. Depending on what has to be the case. Uh, Sam says, I'm really disturbed how Sean drugs Clyde. Not cool. You know what? Clyde loves these. So, it's America, man. He's allowed to have a buzz. Who are you? Who are you to harsh his buzz like that? I'm pretending my soft fatness is normal. Oh no, I'm not pretending it's normal. I'm not. No. Yeah, the character in fitness may decide to have fun, yes. Sergeant Elias says no way they allow him to go to Las Vegas because Melton is a drug addict too. Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing you have to remember. He is a lol cow, and guess what happens? Lol cows generally kind of get to do what they want. I think that is a bit of a curse for the farms and people in general who don't like lol cows. Like people were like, "Oh my God, Nick's like." And we knew that wasn't going to happen, but a lot of people thought Nick was going to get buried under the jail. So and you just see other people who kind of do as Tim Pool says, walking along and slip on a banana peel and do a backflip and land on their feet. He very well could be there, but I don't see it happening. But you know what? Could be wrong. And ultimately, I was wrong about this because I thought at some point this was going to be off the table, but he was still allowed to get it. So, I'm willing to be wrong. Willing to be wrong. I'd rather not be wrong, but I'm honest enough to admit I could be wrong. Clyde is hiding bull peens in Nick's anus. Do I think Nick's streams will be monitored by the bar? No, they're not going to sit there and do it. No. Jimmy says he's already under investigation and will be disbarred for the comments he made about the female judge. They're citing the Minnesota Michelle McDonald precedent. I'm not aware that he was actually being investigated yet for that. So, I mean, if you know more information than I do, that's great. You're sharing the tea. You're sharing that hot goss. But I don't know otherwise. So, but thank you for the super chat. Bella's saying, why didn't she offer to plea since her ass? Oh, talking about Kayla, since her ass never had a freaking job and Nick earns their living. Probably because the prosecutor's like, I don't like. The prosecutor probably looked at him and said, like, I don't fucking believe you. No. I mean, that's the thing. And I'm not gonna lie, like, one of the offices, the two offices I've been in, I'm not so like throwing out April's case, sure. But the idea Nick could just take up for Kayla like that, the one of them for sure, if I walked into my boss and said, the elected and said, like, hey boss, here's what we're gonna do. Well, here's given this is a serious cocaine charge, I would have to clear this with him, given how serious it was, like the amount of drugs. Like if the one county is in, they got 25 grams of coke, that'd probably be one of the bigger fucking busts ever. I walk in there, hey boss, we're gonna cut the wife loose if the husband please. And he like, can we do that? And he would probably be like, fuck no. So the fact this happened in general, like they're being fairly generous in Candy, Ohio County. So I'm surprised they let it. I'm surprised they even let this happen. Chad Boozmock says, I have a feeling the toe isn't going to be happy about this. Well, I mean, Aaron's got his own shit he's got to worry about for now. And Jester's foppery says, walking on sunshine. I understood that reference. All right, here, chat. We're going to catch up on a couple other things. Hellbeard is saying Nick is a legitimate Greek tragedy. Yes. Hubris. Hubris, and how much the fates detest it. Hubris is the downfall of many in the Greek world. He had everything and threw it all away in a bad case of midlife crisis. He wanted to become Dick Masterson beside being infinitely better, and now he's a joke. I mean, yeah, he had it all. He had it all and gave it all up and set it on fire. Mario Carter for 13 says, his mortgage, his sentencing, the loss of his boyfriend, and his baldos, all in April. Oh no! Oh no! And then all is fair in love and war for $20 says, I came in late. However, for some of you who are saying that drugs should be legalized, have never been around someone on drugs. It's truly horrific. And that's a fair comment to have as well. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And then Hellbeard is a new member, another joining the ranks of the Greens. Just getting ready to run these Grays out of town. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Where is... Let's see. Tim says, I think the court ordered assessment. There were 2 orders for pre-sentence. And yeah, like I said, that's normally how this goes. The court orders, the court's got its multiple orders out there. They want a pre-sentence report and the assessment. And the pre-sentence report also helps that if Nick violates, they already have a pre-sentence report ready to go. So, but it also gives the judge other information that the assessment might not have available to him. So we will see about that. And we'll see what those ultimately turn out for Nick. I think the sentencing could be televised. And I don't know if on the farms, if somebody said they went and watched it. Well, if you guys know more than I do, I not have a chance to catch up all the way on the thread. It's saying Frosted Chaos. Would I hire Nick, not as a paralegal, but as a whipping boy to fetch Clyde's weed and stuff? No. I'm good. Gabapentin very much helps with alcohol cravings. Yes, it does. So does Vivitrol. They give it to people who have opiate addiction. But Vivitrol was initially invented for alcoholics. The thing is, gabapentin, though, you can abuse gabapentin. Like, depending on how advanced your drug use is, there are people who abuse gabapentin. Believe it or not, it's a real fucking thing. I mean, when you're doing that, you're even like on the scale of drug use, that's even below liquefying Suboxones and injecting Suboxone, because there are people who do that to get high. But that's really down. Like you're falling into some depths when you're liquefying Suboxone tabs. And they're like those the mouthwash tabs. You remember those were the big thing, guys? Take a Suboxone tab and you like right in your tongue. The sublingual tablets, what they call them. But even below that's like you abusing gabapentin for the high. So you're pretty rough there when you're doing that. Drinking is a gateway drug. Yeah, it can be. Palmyra is saying you can't steal a DUI in Ohio. No, because it's under the traffic code. OVIs are under section 45, title 45 of the Ohio Revised Code. That's traffic. Traffic offenses are not sealable. You guys don't have Alfred pleas? You could have an Alfred plea. Yeah, we have Alfred pleas in Ohio. Those are 2 separate things. But yes, you cannot seal an OVI. Let's see here. Trying to catch up here, chat. Where are we at? What is? We're a couple minutes behind here in the comments here. What happens next if he tests hot after this? Well, it all depends. There'll be a violation hearing. And at that point, the court will decide, are they going to kick him out of the program and immediately sentence him, or are they going to give him a second chance? Now, a lot of judges generally give you one shot, but I've had cases before where we go over like, judge, look, we fucked up. We're really sorry. This is really bad. This guy is super sympathetic. Please give him another chance. And then the guy gets up and, or she gets up and they do their thing and they bawl and cry a little bit. And the judge goes, I'll give you one more shot. Don't fuck it up. But sometimes the judge says, yeah, don't give a fuck. We're going to sentence you now. I give you a shot. It all depends. It's a discretionary thing what they want to do. But Nick should be prepared. He's only got one chance. Only one opportunity to to seize everything he wanted. Only one chance. Nick is getting away scot-free. I mean, but it's not just him, though. This is the equal application of the law. Like, I get it. You want him to go, go make license plates and have to fight off a bunch of bulls in the shower every night. That's not how this works. It's an equal application of law, and I'm glad it's the same for everybody. Because anybody else who comes into that county who's going to be some poor redneck doing meth gets the same shot as Nick. That's the part of the system that's good. Everybody should be getting the same shot. And that's why I know a lot of people are upset about like the January 6th parties. You know what, though? Hunter Biden got a fucking smoking deal and the Biden family got a smoking deal. Guess what? All those January 6ers got a fucking smoking hot deal too. So they got the same treatment. That's fair. I like fairness in the system. And if the absurdity is gonna be the new fairness standard, then fine. At least it's fair. As destructive and fucked up as the system is, if that's what we have to settle for, is it being fair? I don't know what the fuck else we can do. So at least it's fair. And in this case, I don't think this is not a perverse outcome. I will say in this situation, it's not a perverse outcome. It works. It works. Hold on. Where did I see this? The only bar observing Nick will be Stoney's. And that's right, chat. When you think about it tonight, that's the only bar that matters, really, is Stoney's Bar and Grill at 158 East Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota. Stoney's, chat, is your place to go. Tonight, they had a meat raffle at 6:30. They had keys for cash. And then starting at 8:30, they had Griff and the Grifters. And then tomorrow night, starting at 8 p.m., they have Julio Goldstein. I guess one of those Puerto Rican Jews or something like that. I don't know. Maybe. I don't really know. Anyways, that's at Stoney's, chat. They are open now. It's Friday night, chat. They are open till 1 a.m. It is only 9:45. You got enough time to get out there, get liquored up, and have a good time on the patio. And then tomorrow night, they're open till 1 a.m. again as well. So you go out there and tie a couple on and get tore the fuck up and enjoy yourself at Stoney's, chat. Stoney's 30 years as Minnesota's premier biker bar. Oh. Let's see here. See, Nick can team up with Destiny. Fuck. I want to talk about somebody who's crashing and burning. You know what? I'm happy to watch all those leftist and communist dick suckers just light on fire. Suffer, commies! Suffer! Suffer, each one of you. Let Destiny, you hitched a ride on the helicopter known as Destiny, and now you're getting thrown from it. Suffer, commies. Suffer, each one of you. May your suffering become legendary even in hell. So, I'm glad to see it, chat. I'm glad to see it. Let's see here. Can the judge reject the plea? The judge accepted it. And I'm not trying to be facetious here, but when we look at what happened, unless there's something really retarded about Minnesota, looking at this, there was a hearing held in person, and then what do we have? There was an order for pre-sentence investigation, and then there was an evaluation and assessment order, and there's a notice of hearing. And when you get to the notice of a hearing, it's for sentencing, and when you get to sentencing, by that point, the court has already accepted your plea. I mean, because if you get to the point where the judge is like, I'm rejecting your plea, he should have already done that. To wait till April to say, fuck you, I'm not accepting it. That'd be retarded. It's a waste of resources. So it's been accepted. Nick's plea has been accepted. They moved on to sentencing now. So it's already there. And KLB, I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying it has been accepted. I know people were asking, like, well, what does this mean? It's been accepted. It's just when we read the transcript, when that gets released, you're going to see, while they talk about this form, there's going to be a lot that's not on that form that kind of fills in all the gaps there. So let's see here. Tim is saying Kayla isn't a convicted felon when she testifies in the revenge porn case. Yeah, that is possibly a consideration there as well. Yeah, but Nick will be, because it's not going to be terminated by April. But Nick won't be convicted either. But They will be able to talk about him doing drugs and doing all kinds of things that are, and all the other things that could get Nick's bias brought up. Pleasant Pie Susan says, I don't think Aaron cares. Yeah, and I think Aaron's worried about his own shit, but who knows? Maybe he'll start molding and seething. We'll find out. And coping hard. Let's see here. Aaron's likely to supply. If Aaron's a supply, he's the dope. If Aaron's able to get a hold of that much coke, he is the fucking goofiest fucking drug connect I've ever fucking heard of. Imagine, like Aaron, if you're listening, I'm just saying, imagine if Aaron Imholt is your fucking plug. Imagine that, like he's your guy, he's your connect to get like fucking decent weight and coke. You're going to fucking Aaron Imholt. Like, imagine that's the guy you're relying on. That's barely much better than Nick. Because I mean, imagine if Nick was your drug dealer. Like, because people were bringing up maybe Nick's selling drugs. I'm like, if Nick was selling drugs to people, people would fucking rob Nick. It's not like he could fucking fight him. What's he gonna do? Start spindling his fucking twig arms at people? Like that's not gonna happen. Like, imagine Aaron. Like, okay, yeah, like still. The steel toe man being my drug dealer doesn't sound very impressive. I'm sure he would have gotten robbed routinely if that happened. So I'm just saying, Aaron's not the supply. Aaron's not the supply. Frosty, I'm not going on to that. I'm not commenting on that, but you're correct. Hey, Sean, just I'm edging so hard to this. I'm glad. Do you want me to go slower? Do you want me to talk like this? Oh. Josh said, will Nick have to allocute? He likely did at the plea hearing. Because when you get to sentencing, I'm sure he's going to have to say, yeah, I did this. I was wrong. Judge, please work with us on this. I need help. I need to work on these things. Because if there says, oh, Judge, I'm fine. Fuck you. You're not my dad. I'll do what I want. Like that. He's not going to do that. Nick's going to have to come in there and be buck broken. But he already allocated as part of the plea. But once again, I don't know how in depth and how much he had to allocate because it's from judge to judge is going to be different. Panzer Dude says, Sean, he did drugs. I know he did. Paul Myers saying, I'll ask again. I thought I did. I'll ask again. No DUI sealed in Ohio? No, you cannot get DUI sealed in Ohio. You guys don't have Alfred pleas there? I could have sworn Ohio had Alfred pleas for DUI's first time. No. An Alfred plea is saying, I'm pleading out to avoid getting convicted. Not for a DUI. Like, I don't think there's any judge around who would, like, they look at you like you're fucking growing a dick out of your head. Like, literally, like, right out of your forehead, just like a big old cock. No, you're not going to be able, like, I don't see, like, there's no way I'd see anybody allowing that. But no, like, getting diversion for OVI, I don't generally, like, you might be able to get a physical control, but there's no statutory programs or there's no court programs around here that will let you, like, a DUI diversion like that. And they don't do that. Now, you might be able to get one dismissed or knocked down to a reckless op or knocked down to physical control, but just, diverting a DUI, no, that's not happening. It's not happening. So, maybe back in the day, but not since I've been practicing. Not that I'm aware of. And it didn't happen when I got my DUI back in 2005. That didn't fucking exist. I can tell you that much. So, Jerry Lass says, I'm allergic to gabapentin. Yeah, some people are. People have all kinds of drug allergies. Sexarian says, Sean, they say I abuse my kids. Yeah. Oh. Felt Earth Cold saying maybe possibly Nick's parents paid off the judge. Like, guys, literally, that didn't. No, this is what like anybody else in Nick's situation would have happened. Like, so no, this isn't the judge getting paid off. If he accepted a bribe, he's like, okay, but he's like, I'll take your money, but I would have done this anyway for anybody. And maybe that's Nick's parents thinking if they pay money, they're doing something important. Because Nick has that idea of like, if it costs me money, it must be good, like all that art and stuff. And then the Rustang. But really, no, this is what anybody else would have gotten. This isn't unique to Nick. Nick is not a special snowflake. This is pretty bog standard. Like I said, I'm surprised they still did it this far along in the thing after he started jerking around about it. But yeah, otherwise, this is not that abnormal. So, Lord Asherman saying the law is lazy. The law's not being lazy. The law is trying to be, how can we, the idea of the purposes and principles of sentencing are to protect society and also rehabilitate the offender to prevent them from being in that situation again. And it's using, and then the third part of it is you use the least restrictive means and sanctions to accomplish those goals. So in this situation, this is the least restrictive means. There are other restrictive means they can use later, but right now you start off with the least restrictive one. Especially when you don't have anything else out there to gauge how he'll handle himself. That's the way you do it. So I hope that makes sense in that regard. I hope that makes sense. Colostomy Bag says, Canex and marijuana belong on the wall. Yes, no. Your Turk, that's right, chat. Your Turk Roach Walthers, don't use them. They're not that good. And JoJo gifted 10 subs. JoJo's like, Grace, we're praying you away today. We are getting rid of you. We got the H1 green visas coming in. We're taking everything from you. It's like a pogrom against the Grays. Thank you, JoJo, for your support and your generosity. Colostomy Bag says, my grandfather broke his arm and now he's still on gabapentin. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Lifelong gabapentin, like it does good for what it does. And Brent Kellar is a member. Thank you, Brent, for your support. I truly appreciate it. And guys, if you're new members, we do try to do a members only every Wednesday. So always stick around for those, and they're a lot of fun. We get to hang out. All the stuff we normally don't do during live shows or other things, and it's all the stuff that kind of like doesn't fit in anywhere else. We get to hang out and have fun. Get silly. Yeah. Not the Grays. Not the Grays. But I'm saying lies. Kanik is just as good. Okay. Go to the Turkish Bazaar and load some cope in that hookah. Load some cope up in that hookah, buddy. Sam says having under 25,000 subs, that's absolutely criminal. I am where I'm supposed to be. I don't know what else to say about that. There's no other, that it is what it is. It is what it is, chat. Oh, that's all I can say. That's all I can say. Let's see here. Let's see, where are we at here? I'm trying to catch up, chat. Brett saying your legal coverage much appreciated. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Patty says, did Aaron take a deal? No. As of right now, he's going to trial. I asked Aaron, what is that all about? And he says they're still trying to work stuff out. And they have time. They have time until the trial. They can always work something out ahead of time. Courts always love resolutions if they can get them done. So I'm sure that they'd like to try to resolve it before it gets to trial. Did I vote in the PSA poll? I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. I hope I did. I forget now, but I remember hearing about it. So, I don't know. Those guys making the Venturas with the B&T can. I mean, that all sounded really good. Like, that was probably the coolest thing in SHOT Show until they're like, it's going to be like $6,000. And I'm like, fuck you. I ain't doing that. As much as I'd love to have an AS Val, I'm not paying fucking $6,000 for one. And that's a shame because those are fucking cool guns. I would love to have one. And those of you out there wondering what I'm talking about, if you know, you know. Matt K says, I'm going to see that 24.9K for the next 100 years. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. We need sound clips of you yelling, put the fries in the bag. Well, I mean, what other way when these judges in DC are sitting there and bitching and moaning for like 9 pages when all they had to do is a 1-page entry? Ma'am, this is Wendy's. Fucking give me my burger. I don't care about January 6th. Fucking dismiss the case. But no, all those harpies and faggots in the DC circuit, I'm sorry, the District of Columbia District Court, fucking court needs to be abolished. Tarp it over and bulldoze it and tarp it over and make a parking lot. Fucking court doesn't need to exist anymore. Ag saying courts are actually very lazy. You have no fucking idea at times. Trust me, you have no motherfucking idea how lazy courts are. But yes, they are fucking lazy when they want to be. Tachyon Black is saying, is there anything planned for the 25K special? I don't plan for things that I don't think are going to happen. I mean, it's not happened yet, so we'll find. Like, if we get there, we'll plan something. All right. I just don't think it's going to happen. Snoop is saying, lawyers always love to see other lawyers getting off easy. They think they are special. I mean, I guess, but if like when I have clients, if I can fucking get them, this type of deal, which we have here, it's called intervention in lieu of conviction. I'll fight fucking tooth and nail for my guy to get that. I don't care if he's Joe Shit the Ragman or, the running back for the Browns, whoever they are. I want to see people succeed. And if I can put you in the best possible position with the best possible outcome and then leave it up to you, that's what I'm going to do. So it's not him. It's just in general. And also if by doing that, we see the equal application of the law, I mean, that's all you can ask for, really, at the end of the day. Zach Sarian saying, aren't like 90% of cases settled or dropped before a trial? Oh, it's like 95%, but yeah. P6 says, you can afford it, Mr. Lawyer Man. Well, not with some of the other things I have to sort out and pay for, but still, $6,000 for a fucking 300 blackout toy. Yeah, that's like you can buy a fucking PVS 14 and get part of the way through getting a thermal clip-on for that much. It's like that's a lot more useful. Can't wait for the PSA X57 this summer. Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see how those work. Scott says ASVALs are dope. Yeah. Would that ASVAL thing be in 300 blackout? Yeah. The company's BSD, they're making the Venturas and Val in a 300 blackout. So it would be pretty neat. Tony Galati saying last time I was at Stoney's, they had a Nazi REO Speedwagon tribute band in full Waffen SS regalia. They were called TND Schwimmwagen. If they really did this, oh my God, that's like the best fucking bar ever. And that would be awesome. A Nazi REO tribute band, REO Speedwagon tribute band in SS attire. Now, was it like in SS parade uniforms, or were those guys wearing like fucking Oak Leaf B and like Stumpftarn? Because that would be cool if they were doing that. Like they're all dressed up like they were about to ethnically cleanse a village in Belarus. That would be fun to see. Okay, where are we at here? We're gonna see where are we trying to catch up, chat. Hold on here. 25-hour stream at 25K. Clyde told us, yeah. Oh, Jonathan says I need an FRT. There you go. Well, I mean, I'd rather have a drop-in auto seer, but yeah, FRT is good. Jesus love you says, put the fries in the bag, sir. This is a Taco Bell. Well, they have like the nacho fries or something like that. I thought they had something too for a while. Oh, Robot Glock says I only have 25K subs. I read that as $249K. I thought he was going for $250. Ah! Holy shit. No, buddy. No. Huh. I don't know if I can get to $250K doing this for 30 years. Holy shit, that is funny. That is funny. I understand why you might have thought that, sir, but no. We are not that far. We are not that far. Oh. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll just maybe eventually I'll never be recognized for my greatness and my intelligence and my brilliance, but someday, chat, someday. Let's see here. 25K streams are gifts for the chat. The gift of me. That's the gift. Give your subs to excited utterance. Yeah, hell is a good one to look up to, chat. Have fun paying for 5.7 ammo. Well, I mean, have fun paying for any ammo at this point. Oh, hold on, what do you guys, wow, I'm trying to catch up here. Riking the storm out. I'm dropping an uncomfortable amount of knowledge about the bad Germans. You think that's, if you think that amount of knowledge makes you uncomfortable, buddy, I can really make you uncomfortable. Oh God, just brace for impact there, buddy. D is saying, I still need to get my first firearm. What calibers go through level 4 plates? Well, technically, a level 4 plate's supposed to stop up to 30-06 armor piercing. So, like, I don't know, 338 Lapua. But, do you really want your first gun to be a gun chambered in like $5 bills? Actually, probably at this point now, $10 bills. No. Just get an AR-15. It's a good starting point. You get some M855 in that, you'll be all right. You'll be able to cause some problems. And if you really, if you can ever splurge for it, get the M855A1. That'll probably be enough to deal with what you want to do. Reaping you suckers. Sorry, it took me a second to. Or reap new suckers. I don't know. It depends on how you want to pronounce it. It says, I know I just showed up. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. But have you discussed whether the body cams can be released with Nick now taking the plea deal? I know a lot of people are saying yes. I don't know the answer. I hope it's yes, but I don't know. I need to talk to Matthew Harden. I'll give him a call tomorrow and find out. Arson investigator for 1999. He says my CZ Scorpion has a Franklin Army binary trigger in it. It's sweet. Yes, I have heard those are pretty neat in the Scorpions. And how are you doing, man? Thank you for being here. It's good to see you. Azaleo's Bane says, let's go, Sean. Well, thank you. KLB says, wait, is there a pandemic ammo shortage again? No, it's just ammo's like it's getting better in price, but it's still kind of expensive. So I deserve 3 million subs. Okay. I appreciate that. But yes, I can't fight this fear anymore. This Reich is totally worth not dying for. Velocity and range is what defeats plates, and that being said, 5.56 hard to beat. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you have 5.56 in a 20-inch barreled AR-15, like you go M16A2 style, or if you want to be kind of like hipstery, well, the way I'd like to do it is I got a plan for it is like the C7A2 setup, where you have the collapsing stock on it, like M139, M193 ball out of a 20-inch barrel. fucking zips through AR 500 plates at like, 50, like under 50 yards. Velocity is what kills. So yes, if the longer your barrel for an AR-15, the 4 inches you cut off to make a normal the 4 inches you cut off to make a normal carbine, you lose a lot of velocity. So yes, if you're ripping out SS-109 or just some regular steel, like if you happen to have Chinese ammo still kicking around, some steel core, yeah, you start ripping that out of a 20-inch barrel AR, you are fucking smoking a lot of people with armor on. Let me see here. Graham, good to see you, man. How are you doing? Member for 29 months. Thank you for the support. It's awesome. Like I said, it's humbling to see those numbers like that. Sticking around for 29 months. It reminds me, like, we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary soon. So thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. You're here back in the dark days when it was like very primitive. I think even that would have been not this microphone or the microphone before, when I still had like a desk mounted microphone. So yeah, times have changed. How much time is Nick gonna get? He's probably gonna get like 2 years of probation. Or 2 years, like, complete stuff at most. Maybe less. Maybe like a year. Who knows? Techie on Black says, I'm close to 6 million subs. There's just some disagreement about the exact number. Yeah, it's like, how many clicks and likes can you really fit into a train car? And then how many train cars can you really have rolling at one time? I don't think there's been enough subscribers created for that. Oh. Jester says, get the Rittenhouse load. I think Kyle was just using regular 55 grain ball ammo. And he was also using a shitty sight mark Chinesium sight. So I don't know if you'd really I wouldn't rely on that if I had to. Let's see here. Where is... Dude Wipe says, this channel is great. Subbed up. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That looks like some sort of nose ring harpy about to have a meltdown, or she's about to take a big shit in that car. I don't know. Hopefully she's not taking a crap. All right, let's see. Oh. Then I used to sit in the kitchen with yellow paint, or am I tripping? So, no, that was actually a different house I was in. Back in 2019, I tried this for like 2 videos. I did a video about R. Kelly when he first got arrested and in custody, and then like people going to Area 51. And I was like, I don't know, this is kind of gay. It sucks. And I did it all on a cell phone. And I'm like, boring. So I quit. And then I came back at the end of 2021 and started like in 2022 doing it seriously. So yeah, I had like 2 there. Do we have any Quake players here? Like old Quake, yeah. Some guy in a van says, as a fellow Gunpla builder, well, to be fair, I've only built one Gunpla, and that was the old Red Sutsaku over there. I would send you would you do a master grade? Does that mean I have to glue it? Because I'm okay with gluing it. I actually didn't realize these guys are all snapped together, because people were explaining, well, in Japan, like, you got your little apartments, you can't sit there huffing glue all day. But yes, I would send you an MS-09R Rick Dom if your pile of shame isn't too big. No, it's actually not too big. I will say, though, I know people were asking, because I know we talked about in locals, the F4 Phantom we were talking about the one day, the CD model. So Heart of Vietnam. That did come in. We've got that. That's going to go in the pile. We're going to work on that soon, because we still have to get, and Chad, if you're interested, I do models. We are working on the M1 Abrams, and I understand, and you got people might start spurging out on me here. But yes, some guy Devan, it should be down below my PO box address if you want to send something there. It's the PO box for the firm too. And if not, potentiallycriminal@gmail.com, and I can talk to you about it. But we are doing the M1A2 Abrams, and we are doing I'm actually doing a very kind of like not widely used a variant camouflage called the master pattern. It's a beige with a rust red and a off green with some black in there interspersed. It was something they did in the late 70s. They were working on in Europe to see what was a better camouflage pattern before they established the current camo setups. And I think it just looks pretty badass, even though it's anachronistic. So that's what we're doing. And we'll probably be working on it a little bit tonight after we're done here. Quake 1 is still my favorite. Yes, Quake 1 is, yeah. REO Volkswagen. REO Panzerkampfwagen. There we go. KLB says, wow, I've been around for a minute. Yeah, we've been around. It's been a while. It's been a while. Master Grader is still snapped together, just bigger and more detailed. Okay, well, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I love doing models and putting shit together. So, Panzer Dude says the Bluey solution. This episode of Bluey is called Domestic Terrorism. I still want to see one of those where it's like, you see like a pair of wire cutters and a spool of wire and then a bomb next to it. That'd be a funny Bluey episode. Okay. Panzer Dude says, nice tank, I forgive you. Well, thank you. Ellie Fan says, do you ever do aircraft carriers? Wait till they have those? Oh, there's you want to see some, yes, there are 1/300 scale ships out here. There's this, like, here's a channel. This guy, Amography. I am probably butchering the name, but like, this guy has done like all the world, like he does a lot of Japanese stuff because he's Japanese. But like this guy does like full like through 1/300th of like the Akagi, like all of them. He does, trying to find yeah, here we go. This is the guy. Yeah, they do all kinds, and these are fucking massive. 1,000-foot boat at a 1/300 scale. This is the guy's channel, Amography. This guy does like all kinds of cool stuff. He like a 1/350th of the Graf Zeppelin. All these different things he does. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. And then he does, yeah, he does, this is the Akagi right here. He did the Akagi 1/350th scale, like all kinds of cool shit. So yes, they have models of everything out there. Everything, chat. Everything. Yes, doing the Elon salute up from the bottom of my heart, chat. From the bottom of my heart. Oh. All right. Where are we? Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, I'm a war history buff. That explains a lot. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not afraid to admit I'm a wereaboo at the end of the day too. I'll be honest. I'll be honest about it. Did I answer that, Ivan? Yeah, I think I did. Yes, Hellcats used to bait zeros into climbs because the zeros thought that it would stall. Because they thought they would stall like the Wildcats. Yes, it's very interesting when the Hellcats rolled out onto the scene and the zeros had no fucking idea what was going on. Do I know any kit bashing channels? Yeah, there's a couple different kit bashing channels out there. There's a lot of people. Just watch a lot of there's a lot of good modeling channels out there. I'm trying to think of some good ones right off the top of my head, but yeah. Bifron saying the Max Mura Pearl Harbor stream is pretty good. Well, I'm glad you guys like that. It was a lot of fun. All right, chat. Well, I think we're done here. I think we're done. I think everybody's kind of got all the info we can get out of this tonight. I mean, really, that's all we can do at this point is yeah, just wait to see what happens. Wait to see what happens. I streamed with Max. Yes, I have. Max is a funny guy. Great time. Very smart guy. I enjoy talking to him. Let's see. So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap this up, guys. So yeah, that's the step. That is the Nick saga, at least for now, is wrapping up, and it's at least this chapter. There might be more chapters coming, but this chapter with the cocaine is coming to an end for the part at least we can appreciate. And yeah, that's Ray Lewis just released Fitcoin. I'm surprised he didn't release Stab Coin. Knowing him, so Knife Coin. So yes, this is, and with that, that's the end of season 1. So thank you for everybody here. Thank you and good night. No, I'm just kidding. As the Padres guy does. That's guys, we're all done. We've got other stuff we're going to be covering. The one trial I heard about, I thought it was delayed, but it started today. The ASAP Rocky, the rapper. That's actually a pretty gnarly situation that happened with like some crazy shit went down. And he's actually on trial right now in LA. That trial is being televised. We might work on that coming up. I have a trial set for the 10th. And we might be able to cover the trial next week because the week before trial, I'm going to be working my ass off because this dude wants trial and I don't think he's going to please. So like, I got to get ready. So we'll work on ASAP Rocky next week. It should be a lot of fun. We might watch it Saturday or Sunday. I don't know yet. We'll figure that out. If there's any other updates to the Nick stuff, guys, we will cover it, but I don't think anything's going to happen until sentencing. So just, speculate away. In the meantime, I guess is all you're going to be able to do. So with that said, everybody, thank you for being here on Twitter. How many of you are out there? Oh, 400 ghosts are on Twitter. Thank you, all of you out there. Thank you, Elon, for inflating my sense of self-worth again. Thank you, everybody on Rumble. Josmo says, "Sar, do not redeem the 249K COD. Sa." He's saying, how many trial days does your practice typically have these days per month? Well, I mean, I have a lot of them where I have a hearing and then we're in and out. So, I mean, easily, like, it could be, like, anywhere from, like, 10 to, like, a lot more. It just depends. I mean, you mean, like, where I'm actually in a courtroom? I mean, like, could easily be half. But I try to clump all my shit together. I don't like spreading things out because that's a lot of driving. So if I can kind of like consolidate days, I try to do that. Loida says, praying you get your plea. Well, I don't know if we're going to get what my guy wants. So I would appreciate if we did, because if we did, that'd be a smoking deal. But probably not going to get it. So with that said, chat, thank you for everybody here on YouTube. Guys, if you ask questions, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you sent a super chat, thank you. New members, thank you as well. And I'm going to leave it there. So remember, chat, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Unless you enter a plea of guilty. Then you are. So, good night, chat. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy?